In the 1992 European Championship, a miracle happened. Denmark, who hadn't even qualified for that summer's Euros, were crowned champions, beating every super team in their way. While many Danish players from that squad would admit that the whole was greater than the sum of its parts, it was the wizardry of one man that led them to that famous Euros win. He was a world-class player for over a decade, winning numerous individual accolades, the Champions League, and earned multiple Ballon d'Or nominations, even placing as high as 5th. However, he is firmly in the shadow of his brother and severely underrated outside of Denmark and Glasgow. Numerous legends like Franz Beckenbauer called him a world-class player. But how can a player with so much accomplishments and praise not be noticed and just forgotten? Well, sit down, strap in, and join me as we go through the career of Brian Laudrup and figure out why he is so underappreciated. Brian Laudrup was born on February 22, 1969 in Vienna, Austria, and started his career at the Brøndby Youth Academy. He made his senior career debut at the age of 17 and would go on to win the 1987 and 1988 Danish First Division titles, scoring 13 goals in 49 games and earning a call-up to the Danish national team. Halfway through the 1989-90 season, Laudrup's contract with Brøndby expired, and he agreed to join German club Bayer Uerdingen for a fee of 500,000 euros. In his first season in the Bundesliga, Laudrup scored 6 goals and got 2 assists in 34 matches, despite his team finishing 15th. His performances were so impressive that he was named Danish Player of the Year and was rated as the Kicker Bundesliga's second best forward. German sports magazine Sport Bild hailed Laudrup as the 1989-90 season's best signing. Eventually, Laudrup would force a move out due to the executives of the club and not strengthening the team. He eventually signed with Bayern Munich for a fee of 5 million euros. The 1990-91 season was arguably his best season in a top 5 league. After winning the DFB Super Cup, he would have 9 goals and a whopping 12 assists in 42 games. That is 1 goal contribution every other game, which is ridiculous. Laudrup was an incredibly versatile player, able to play as a striker, center forward, attacking midfielder, or out wide on either flank. However, he was deployed most often as a center forward in a free role, given the freedom to create and score at will. The thing to note about Laudrup was that he was an incredibly unselfish player and focused on playmaking rather than scoring. He typically would receive the ball a bit deeper than a traditional striker and would use his acceleration, control, and dribbling ability to effortlessly beat players. This would create a man advantage for Bayern and would create openings for his teammates to run into, where he would find them. And he almost always did, due to his incredible vision and passing. Regarding Laudrup's unselfishness, John Gregg commented, "Apart from applying the ammunition, Laudrup was also capable of his share of goals, but I genuinely believe that he was embarrassed about scoring. He seemed to derive much more pleasure from making goals." However, the Danish wizard was not just an assist machine, he was also a deadly goal scorer. His finishing was always powerful and accurate, and he can score any type of goal. From shots with either foot, bullet headers, 40-yard screamers, clinical finishes, you name it, Laudrup would put it in the back of the net. In summary, Laudrup, on his day, was essentially unplayable and capable of single-handedly winning games on his own. He could shred defenses with ease and be the talisman that his team needed. His talents would guide Bayern to a second-place finish, 3 points behind FC Kaiserslautern, and declared as the Kicker Bundesliga best forward. Unfortunately, his second season would represent a decline, putting up only 5 goal contributions in the 21 games he played that season. For as good as the Dane was, this season would reflect 2 career-long struggles that would blight his legacy, his inconsistency and constant injury problems. But more on that later. Despite his setbacks, he was still called up to the Danish national team for the 1992 European Championships. However, this was bizarre since Denmark didn't even qualify for the Euros. So how could that be? Well, Yugoslavia, the team that qualified ahead of Denmark, was going through the first of many wars known as the Yugoslav Wars, which would cause the country to break up. This led to them being suspended by FIFA and UEFA and were disqualified from Euro 1992. Since Denmark finished second in their group behind Yugoslavia, they were the next best qualifier for that group and took their place at the tournament. Denmark was, how do I put this lightly, not at all prepared for the tournament since most of their squad was on holiday. On top of that, their squad was, well, not strong at all. The only major standouts were Manchester United goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel, Brian Laudrup, and his brother Michael Laudrup. Wait, scratch that. He walked out on them. The rest of the squad were mostly average or below average players playing in either Denmark or for lower tier Bundesliga teams. However, the whole was greater than the sum of their parts. To quote midfielder Kim Vilfort, "We did not have the best players, but we had the best team." Manager Richard Nielsen implemented a rigid, strictly defensive style of play. While the team didn't score a lot of goals, they didn't concede a lot either. They were a tight-knit and well-drilled group of players with a never-say-die attitude. Also, back in the day, there was this rule where you were allowed to pass back to your team's goalkeeper, and they were allowed to pick up the ball and restart play. This was a major time killer and would be used expertly by Denmark. Denmark was placed in a group containing some of the top national teams in the world. England had Alan Shearer, Paul Merson, Gary Lineker, and Stuart Pearce. Sweden had Roland Nilsson and Thomas Brolin, who would finish as the competition's top goal scorer. And France probably had one of the most formidable squads in the world, building the foundation for their 1998 World Cup and 2000 Euros triumphs with the likes of Laurent Blanc, Didier Deschamps, Emmanuel Petit, and Eric Cantona. So it is fair to say that getting to the knockout stage would prove difficult. After a 0-0 draw with England and a loss to Sweden, Denmark would look to make an early exit. However, a massive win over France with Larsen and Elstrup scoring, and England losing their final group stage game saw Denmark through as runner-ups in the group. Since they were runners-up, they had to face the team that finished top of Group B, which was the Netherlands. The Dutch had a very strong and well-balanced team with a possession-based style. The team was packed with superstars, such as Ronald Koeman, Dennis Bergkamp, Frank de Boer, and Danny Blind, with the AC Milan trio of Frank Rijkaard, Marco van Basten, and Ruud Gullit as well. The Danes held the Dutch to a 2-2 draw. Larsen bagged a brace, with one of those goals being assisted by Laudrup. Eventually, Denmark beat the Netherlands on penalties and was sent to the finals against Germany. Future UCL winner Rudi Völler and Ballon d'Or winner Matthias Sammer were star players. Luckily for Denmark, Euros and World Cup winner, star player, and Ballon d'Or winner Lothar Matthäus was injured and missed the tournament, so that helped. However, Germany were the reigning World Cup winners and strong favorites to win the tournament. However, someone from UEFA forgot to send Denmark the script. 2-0 was the final scoreline, and Denmark had completed the most miraculous upset in the history of international football. While Brian Laudrup wasn't the most productive player, his skill, dribbling ability, and speed were an important part of the Danish team that went on to win the tournament. Laudrup was included in the team of the tournament, won his second Danish Player of the Year award, narrowly ahead of Peter Schmeichel, and placed 6th in the 1992 Ballon d'Or. He fulfilled a lifelong dream of moving to Serie A, which was at that time the best league in the world, when he joined Fiorentina for €5 million. At the time, the club was a bit of a basket case, to put it lightly. Il Viola had a severe lack of financial stability and would burn through 4 different managers in the 92-93 season, which would come back to bite them. Laudrup, as well as the rest of the squad, had a good start to the season, with the Dane getting 3 goal contributions in 4 games. However, the chopping and changing of styles led to dreadful results later in the season. Fiorentina fell into the bottom half of the table and was relegated on the last day of the season after more than 50 straight years playing in Serie A. Despite the relegation, Laudrup himself had a solid season with 8 goal contributions in 34 matches and was loaned out to AC Milan for the 93-94 season. Because of the 3 foreigner rule at the time, Dejan Savicevic, Jean-Pierre Papin, Marcel Desailly, and Florin Raducșoiu were all preferred foreign player options. Additionally, manager Fabio Capello implemented a strict defensive style of play at Milan and preferred to play more defensive-type players rather than the direct play preferred by Laudrup. Milan would end up winning the Scudetto and the 1993-94 UEFA Champions League. When his loan move expired, he returned to Fiorentina. However, he expressed a desire to leave Florence, so in June 1994, he was offered a way out by Walter Smith at Rangers. This was appealing for Laudrup, and he signed for the Glasgow-based club. In his 4 years at Rangers, Laudrup was inconsistent. However, when he was in form, there was no stopping him. The Dane grabbed 13 goals in 38 games in his debut season as Rangers won their 7th consecutive Scottish championship. Laudrup would win both the Scottish Football Writers and the Scottish PFA Player of the Year awards. He carried his good form to the summer for Denmark in the 1995 Confederations Cup, where Laudrup won the Golden Ball Award, naming him the best player of the tournament, and later won his 3rd Danish Player of the Year award. In his next season, Laudrup would win Rangers' 8th consecutive league title and made a big impact in the Scottish Cup that season, scoring the winning goal in the semi-finals against Celtic and bagging a brace, as well as assisting all 3 of striker Gordon Duray's goals in the final. Laudrup won the Man of the Match award, and the game has since been known as the Laudrup Final. In his 3rd season at Rangers, the Dane would have his best season in over 5 years. 20 goals in 43 games would represent his most productive season in a Rangers shirt, with one of those goals coming in a 4-3 win over Hearts in the 1996-97 Scottish League Cup final. Rangers would win their 9th consecutive league title, with the Danish forward scoring the only goal in a 1-0 away win at Dundee United that would clinch the league. His performances saw him win the Scottish Football Writers Award once again, and would win his 4th Danish Player of the Year award. Laudrup's last season would represent a major come-down, scoring 5 goals in 36 games, and leaving the club shortly afterward. He later described his time at Rangers as the 4 best years of my career, and he was voted into the Rangers Hall of Fame. The 1998 World Cup would spark interest from Europe's elite once again and prove his class for the national team. He scored 2 goals and gathered 3 assists, leading Denmark to the quarterfinals where, despite contributing to all of Denmark's goals, they were defeated 3-2 by eventual runners-up Brazil. He was named as one of the 16 players selected by FIFA to be in the All-Star team of the World Cup. After the tournament, Laudrup decided to end his national team career, having played 86 matches, scoring 22 goals over 11 years. Chelsea was his next stop, as he was signed on a free transfer, despite wanting to cancel his contract as soon as he signed for the Blues. Despite playing well and winning the UEFA Super Cup, he moved to FC Copenhagen and Ajax, where despite having a fantastic season, he decided to retire due to recurring injury setbacks. When reflecting on his injury problems, he explained, "The last 6 months, it's been really bad. I've been taking all sorts of tablets and trying all sorts of treatments, but unfortunately, the problem has not gone away. I've been thinking about an operation, but specialists in Holland and Denmark couldn't give me any guarantees the problem would be solved, so I thought it was about time to call it a day." Brian Laudrup has received a fair share of mixed criticism. He has been praised by several players, managers, pundits, and footballing figures for his footballing ability. However, Walter Smith was more critical on Laudrup, commenting, "Brian Laudrup is as good a player as I have ever worked with, but he frustrated me. He had the capability of being up there with the greatest players of all time. There was just that little bit of him mentally that stopped him from being right at the very top. Make no mistake, he was a fantastic player for us, but he could have elevated himself into a position where he was one of the best in the world." Inconsistencies and injuries were the downfall of his career and prevented him from being in frequent Ballon d'Or contention and cementing himself as one of the greatest players in his generation. Nevertheless, his legacy with Denmark at Euro 92 is unforgettable, showcasing his many talents and leading a small nation with little football pedigree to the summit of European football and creating a miracle.